Hello everybody. Today we are looking at a couple of vintage flashlights. These are two revisions of the same light. These are both Eveready Captain 6D searchlights. These are big metal searchlights that take 6D batteries. That is pretty hefty. Now, if you haven't been watching me for too many years, you may not know that lighting is one of those big things that I'm into, especially portable lighting, although it's not something I've dabbled in recently. But even if you haven't watched me very long, maybe you've already got the idea based on that I've got a 4-foot shop light hanging above me, and I've also got this hanging above me. One of the earliest low voltage fluorescent light fixtures ever made, and one of the only 12-volt fluorescent lights that has a magnetic ballast. And then I've also got that and that and that, which you haven't seen yet, and that this video is being lit by a couple of fluorescent television lights. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I'm into, and I've made a lot of videos about lighting stuff before. So, what are these and why do I have two of them? Well, for a long time, I've always wanted to have a mag light, and specifically, I've always wanted to get a 6D mag light, the biggest mag light that you can get today. And several years ago, I came close to pulling the trigger for one. That was back when you could get one in Canada for like $60 or so. And I held off on it. And recently, the interest came back, and I looked, and now a 6D mag light costs minimum like $80 or $90 to get one in Canada. And that's just way too expensive. And the reason I wanted a 6D mag light, I'm not really a flashlight person, I'm more of a lantern kind of person, but I've always wanted to just have a big, long metal flashlight. But 6D mag lights, which is what I was interested in, they're just way too expensive to get for what's otherwise just a standard-ass flashlight. And I thought, hey, I bet someone like Eveready or Rayovac probably made something similar back in the day. And I was right, because Eveready made this. A regular ass flashlight that's not too regular ass, because it's made of metal and it takes 6D batteries. And it's classed as a searchlight. Now, what does searchlight mean? Why aren't I just calling this a flashlight? Well, there's not a concrete answer for that, but in my mind, a flashlight like this one is something that you'll use for close range lighting stuff up. Something that you might use to help find your keys in the dark, or to just light up a general area when the power's out or whatever. Something you'll use at fairly close distances. But a searchlight is something that's been designed to throw a beam very far. So this one, which I will turn on for you now, if I turn it on right here, it actually doesn't look that terribly impressive. It's got a pretty bright spot in the center, and it does throw quite a wide beam, but that wide beam is quite dim. But the difference is, if I shine it over here, look at that, we are a good 12 feet away, and that spot is still very, very bright. These have been designed to throw a beam a very far distance. So when you use them close up, you get a very small spot, and it's really not that impressive or that useful for close-up stuff. But these aren't designed for that. These are designed for you to be, say, out in the woods, possibly looking for a person or an animal, or you just need to see really far into the distance. These are fantastic at that. These were, in a lot of cases, a life-saving device. Lots of police and fire departments and stuff would be deployed either these, or maybe more likely the Maglite equivalent, or at least something similar. I took this one outside and I shone it into the woods, like 200 feet into the woods, and it lit up everything 200 feet away super visibly. It was really impressive. Because when you look at these, it's just a standard flashlight bulb in there. It's nothing special. These take a PR18 flashlight bulb. That's the standard incandescent 6-cell flashlight bulb. But the reflector has been designed to focus the light from that PR18 bulb very tightly, very narrowly. So what you get is a very narrow beam that can therefore shine really, really far. And these do a pretty impressive job at that. And the reason I wanted a big metal flashlight is just because sometimes they're useful as a safety device. If you ever needed, like, I think, God forbid, if there was ever a house fire or something and I had to bust out a window to escape, something like this can do that. I keep this next to my bed in my bedroom. And there's other uses that a big long metal flashlight can have. You can use your imagination. I won't do it for you. So that's why I wanted one of these. Now, the next question is, why have I got two of them? You can see that these are slightly different. So Eveready made this flashlight for about 20 years, from the mid-1960s to the early or mid-1980s. And they made three revisions. Each of those revisions along that 15 to 20 year lifespan had different switch designs. The earliest units from the 60s had a metal slide switch. This unit from the 70s, you can see, has a plastic slide switch. And this red button is to momentarily flash it if you needed to give an SOS signal or to get somebody's attention. Because once again, you know, these were sometimes deployed as life-saving devices. Imagine if you were on a boat and had to get a Coast Guard ship's attention, you could blink it like that. And then the final revision in the 1980s was actually branded Energizer, and it had the push button switch. So the reason I have two of these is I got this one first. This was a Christmas gift from my mother. Thanks, Mom. I saw it on eBay, pointed it out for her. She got me it for Christmas. How sweet. Unfortunately, I bought it untested, and I thought, you know, what could go wrong? It's a regular ass flashlight. What could possibly not work about it? Well, it turns out the switch is something that could possibly not work on it. This plastic slide switch is basically a defective design. It's very, very weak, and this one's broken. The switch is held in place by plastic fingers, which you can imagine after 50 years, 55 years maybe even, those plastic fingers, plastic clips that keep it in place, some of them have broken, and the switch, you can see, should not be doing that. It should not be being pushed up at a place like that. And so this switch does not work properly. In order to make the flashlight turn on, you have to basically hold it down the entire time. That's too bad. But the later revision with the push button switch, it's a better design. And so when I got this one, found out that sadly the switch is no good. I can't really think of any way you'd be able to fix it, at least not without extensive modification. So I went back on eBay and I found this newer one with the push button switch, and it works. Funny enough though, this one was tested by the seller. Seller showed a picture of it working. Ha, yes, I know this works. Be darned if it came and the switch didn't work on this one. It was stuck. It was stuck in the off position. You would press the button and it would spring in and spring out without clicking. So it wouldn't actually actuate. The plunger would just spring in and out. And it actually took a lot of work to make this switch work again. So much that I thought it was going to be a lost cause and I would not be able to make it work again. What I ended up having to do, I tried several things, and I don't know whether all the things I tried in combination worked, or if it was one of the things I tried that worked. But the first thing I tried was, I opened the flashlight up, and this switch is in a plastic mechanism, like a little module, and we'll see that when we open this up later. And the first thing I tried was just fogging that module down with contact cleaner. I figure maybe there's some grease in there. Well, almost certainly there was some grease in there that had hardened, and that's why the latch mechanism wasn't working properly anymore. So there wasn't any obvious way to open up the switch, so I just soaked it down with contact cleaner. That didn't really seem to do anything. And then I soaked it down with oil. I just soaked the whole casing of the switch in machine oil. And I let it sit. And that seemed to help a tiny bit, but it was largely still not functional. And then I decided to soak it down with Simple Green, clean out all the oil. And that's when it finally decided to start working. And it has largely been fine since then. You might have noticed just a couple of minutes ago, I turned it on and it didn't come on and I had to cycle it again. It's not perfect. Once in a while you'll click it and it won't turn on, even though it will click, but I just cycle it again and then it works. It's largely fine now. And funny enough, all those chemicals, the contact cleaner, the oil, the Simple Green, the combination of all that crap going in the switch mechanism and therefore inside this rubber button seems to have like renewed the rubber on this button, because it was originally, it wasn't like hard, like it was gonna crack, but it definitely wasn't very supple anymore. Now this rubber is super supple. the barrage of chemicals that I soaked it with have renewed it, and it's nice and rubbery and supple now, so that was a bonus. But yeah, so it seems to be okay now. So my recommendation is, if you want to get one of these, absolutely avoid this generation with the plastic slide switch. If you can, get one of the earliest ones with the metal slide switch, and these ones with the push button switch might or might not be a crapshoot. I don't know if mine was, mine showed signs of, this one particular one is rusty inside. I don't think it's battery corrosion. I think it was probably just stored in a humid environment and it's rusted on the inside. Luckily the outside is still in great shape. So I don't know if you were to find another one of these on eBay, if it might be common for the push button switches to not be working well. So you may or may not have good luck finding this newest generation with the push button switch. So there you go. But there's other differences too. You might notice that these are actually different lengths. The push button version is actually slightly longer because it has to accommodate the push button mechanism, which takes up some space. The older ones, this is just like a standard cheap flashlight switch where sliding the switch just pushes a metal contact up against the body of the flashlight, or up against the body of the bulb rather, to connect power. So super simple. But this one, it actually needed like half an inch or an inch of extra length to accommodate the little push button module. And there's other differences. The casting is actually different. The older ones have a bit finer ribbing than the later ones do. And then kind of a disappointing difference is the older one, look at this. The older one's got a glass lens on it. This is a glass lens. That's really, really cool. The newer one, it's plastic. That's okay. The reflectors on both of them are unfortunately just metallized plastic. I can't speak for the first generation. Maybe it has a real metal reflector, but on these two newer generations, it's just the standard cheap plastic reflector that's had a mirrored metal finish sputtered onto it, basically. And it's quite delicate. You can see this one is missing some of the reflective material. The reflector in this one was actually originally in this one. I swapped the reflectors. I did try swapping the lenses so I could have the glass lens in this one. Not compatible. The glass lens is slightly thicker, and when you put the glass lens in this, you actually can't put the flashlight together anymore. There's not enough space because of the different switch mechanism. It just interferes. That's potentially why they switched to the thinner plastic lens, is to make that work. So that's too bad. But yeah, there you go. But there's another trick that these things have up their sleeve. But to show it to you, I need to put you on a tripod. So let me go do that. So take a look at this. I never knew there was a flashlight that could do this. So this thing is convertible. What does that mean? Well, I'll show you right now. So I'll start by unscrewing the tail cap, and I'll show you this tail cap because it's pretty cool. Even on this newer Energizer branded version, the tail cap still says not only Eveready, but it says Union Carbide on it. That's pretty cool. And then it gives an American address. Both of these flashlights were made in the USA, which is pretty cool. And our big pile of D batteries comes out. It's like those clown tricks where they just pull the multicolored rags out of their mouth and they just keep coming. That's this with the batteries. So our batteries are out, and then you might notice this little seam in the middle of the flashlight. We can unscrew the two halves of the flashlight. Why would you be able to do that? That seems kind of odd. You could do it for easier storage, maybe. That's certainly a very plausible reason. It is a very long flashlight after all. But there's another trick up this thing's sleeve. So we've been able to unscrew half of the flashlight's body. Now I'm going to unscrew the head of the flashlight. So that is how that comes out. And there you can see the switch mechanism inside there. And the head comes apart like this. There's a reflector in the bulb. Here's the end cap, or the head piece. And the lens just free floats in there. And to get the bulb out, this little brownish red part, you kind of push on that sideways and it pops out. It's just held in with friction. And then our bulb comes out. And I'm going to replace this original bulb with this 3-cell flashlight bulb. I'm going to put it all back together. Sometimes it takes some finagling to get the reflector assembly back in. There we go. I'm going to screw it all back together. I'll put in as many batteries as I can, which now is just 3 batteries. And the tail cap screws back on just like it did before. But it's screwing on to the first half of the flashlight body now. And suddenly, we have converted this thing into a 3-cell flashlight. And that was kind of the neat trick that these could do. You can convert these between being a 6-cell Searchlight and a 3-cell Searchlight just by unscrewing half of the body and changing out the bulb. That's pretty cool. And I can definitely see the reasons you might want to do this. Maybe you like your big metal flashlight, but it might be hard to pack for a camping trip or whatever. And so maybe it's worth it to you to reduce its functionality slightly and just make it a 3-cell flashlight for the trip. Or maybe you have it fully together as a 6-cell flashlight and you're going out on a long camping trip or a long search and rescue trip or something, and you don't want to carry, you need to carry spare batteries, but you don't want to carry 6 whole D batteries. That's a lot of extra weight. Maybe you just carry 3D batteries and a spare 3-cell bulb. And so if you happen to run out of battery power while you're out, you can convert it to 3D pretty quickly, you just saw, and stick in the 3-cell bulb, and you'll still have most of the functionality. The particular 3-cell bulb I've just put in here, it's not quite as bright as a 6-cell bulb, but it is almost as bright, and it's certainly better than having a better flashlight with dead batteries. So this is pretty cool that you can do this. And that's pretty much all there is to show of these. I've shown you them working. I've shown you what their kind of use case was, throwing a beam long distances. And now I've shown you the neat trick that they can do. But there is one more thing that I want to talk about. So I've got 2 of these. I had to buy this second one because unfortunately the first one that my lovely mother got me for Christmas, switch is bad in it, which sucks. So I've been wondering, you know, what can I do? I'm not interested in keeping this second broken one. I thought, you know, maybe I can just sell it for $5 locally as a display piece. It is pretty cool. It's in nice shape, nice and shiny. And, you know, maybe someone would want it for super cheap just as a display piece. And then something occurred to me. Because of the convertibility of these things, where, you know, the flashlight's body comes apart in 2 pieces, and the end cap can screw onto either piece. I thought, does that mean I could take the second half off of this broken flashlight, tack it onto this flashlight, and have a 9D Searchlight? Well, I tried it. And the answer is yes, it works. So I'll just show you that right now. I was so excited, I was unbelievably excited. If you follow me on Mastodon, the Maritime Girl at tech.lgbt, I was just beside myself when I tried this and it worked. You're seeing it happen right now. And we have just made a monster Searchlight that takes 9D batteries. And this is so cool to me. Configured like this is 25 inches long, and when it's loaded with 9D cell alkaline batteries, it weighs 3.5 pounds. So I absolutely want to permanently convert this to be this way. I'll put this 3-cell bulb into this flashlight, and I'll just try and sell it locally for $5 as a 3-cell flashlight. This is super cool, and I am so excited that I couldn't find any evidence on the internet of any other person trying this. So I think this might be the first time on the internet an Eveready Captain 9D flashlight of my own godless, sinful creation. I love it. So I'm going to keep this way, but we have some things that we have to figure out. Because as far as I can tell, 9D flashlight bulbs don't exist. The biggest common flashlight bulb, the original bulbs that these come with are the PR18 bulb. The PR18 is your standard 6-cell flashlight bulb. There is the PR20, which is a fairly common 7-cell flashlight bulb. But to my knowledge, there is no 8 or 9 cell flashlight bulbs. If there were, and there were, I do know there were, because way back in the 70s, I believe, Maglite made an 8D flashlight. They're exceedingly rare now. I've never seen a picture of one on the internet, but there are multiple accounts that they did exist and were sold for at least a short time in the 70s. But essentially, from all the research I've done, 8 and 9 cell flashlight bulbs are pretty much unobtainium. Now, there are non-standard PR bulbs. In fact, I have one of these bulbs that is stamped on the base as being rated for 12 volts, which would be perfect for this because 9 alkaline batteries is 13.5 volts. PR bulbs are always rated for slightly less voltage than you actually put into them. Most flashlights overdrive the bulb, gets you a brighter, whiter, and more efficient light, reduces the lifespan of the bulb anywhere from 50 hours down to maybe as few as 10 hours of life, and that's generally fine for a flashlight. So I do have a PR bulb that's rated 12 volts, and I tried it in this, and it was disappointingly dim, very, very dim. And I tested it on my power supply, and it turns out this 12 volt bulb really wants to be run at like 20 volts to be a useful flashlight bulb. And I've found some non-standard bulbs on like some of those, eLightBulb or lightbulbs.com or whatever websites that are rated for higher voltages. But unfortunately, those websites are kind of inaccessible to me, just because the shipping cost really doesn't make it worth it. And there's really nothing on Amazon either. So my best bet is probably to get a PR20 bulb. That's a 7 cell flashlight bulb. They're fairly common and cheap to get. But it does mean I'll have to do something other than use 9 alkaline batteries. Alkaline D batteries are really expensive. I got these batteries fairly cheap at the surplus and salvage store. 12 of them cost me 15 bucks, I think. That's extremely cheap. But these are cheap batteries. They're a generic brand. They're actually not very good. When you load them down, the voltage reduces quite a bit. So they're crappy batteries, and decent D batteries are just very expensive now. Fewer and fewer things in the world are using D batteries. So I figure my best bet, if I want to make this work, is probably a PR20 bulb and then 8 nickel metal hydride rechargeable D-cell batteries and then a spacer. So 8 real batteries and then 1 spacer. And that might work. Theoretically, at least. The problem with rechargeable batteries is, first of all, they're expensive. It'll cost me $50 or $60 to get 8 D-cell batteries, but I'm not opposed to it nonetheless. But the other thing is that even though nickel metal hydride batteries are generally rated 1.2 or 1.25 volts nominal, when they're fully charged, they can be up to 1.5 volts. And then the voltage falls pretty quickly once you put a load on them, or even if you let them sit a while. So there could be a case where at nominal voltage, 8 rechargeable batteries will work fine with a 7D or a 7-cell bulb, but a 7-cell bulb on fully charged batteries may burn out. It's something I'm just going to have to test and find out for myself. And then there's also LED options. Amazon appears to be flooded with LED flashlight bulbs, that are meant to replace a bulb like this. That are the voltage rate, they have a huge voltage rating, like 6 volts to 24 volts. So how well those work, I don't know. They're all generic Chinese stuff. They might be terrible. Certainly the optical properties are going to be completely different from an incandescent bulb. But I may toy around with that as well. I may get one of those LED bulbs and just for the curiosity, see how well they work. They're about 10-15 bucks to get one in Canada. And of course, another option is just to load this with 6 batteries and 3 spacers and just use the stock PR18 bulb. But the thing is, if I have the capability to have 9 batteries in this thing, I kind of want to be able to have as many batteries as possible, because more batteries is more weight, and I feel like having this thing be as heavy as possible just adds to the coolness of it. I could buy AA battery to D-cell adapters, and that would be a very economical way to power this thing, but then it'd be very light in comparison. There's also 18650 cell adapters, and I could put, I think 5 18650 cells would fit end to end in this. The voltage would then be around, I forget, 16 or 20 or 24 volts, and then that weird 12 volt bulb that really wants to be run at 20 volts would actually be okay in this with lithium ion batteries, but still it would be really light. I want this thing to be heavy. I want this thing to feel like it's got 9 freaking D batteries in it. So I think possibly the best way to go is going to be rechargeables and 1 spacer and a PR20 bulb. But I've already gone into it too much in this video. What I want to do is dedicate another video to this flashlight in its gargantuan 9D form. And in that video, we're going to do some testing. I've already gone on eBay and I've bought some vintage Eveready 7-cell flashlight bulbs. So those are on the way. I just got to buy some spacers. I might not buy rechargeable batteries just yet, just because I just bought these 12 alkaline batteries, so I might as well use these. I can put in 7 alkaline batteries and 2 spacers. So I got to buy some spacers. Vintage bulbs are coming. That's pretty cool. It's a 10 pack of Eveready 7-cell bulbs. So I'll wait on them to come. In the meantime, I might buy an LED bulb as well, just to try that. And then we'll make another video of my gargantuan creation here, and we'll test it out, and you'll get to see more of this. So now I've talked about all there is to talk about these. I will mention one more thing. You know, once I learned about these, I wondered if perhaps Rayovac, which of course was probably Eveready's biggest competitor, did Rayovac back in the day make a flashlight like this? And they did. It was made under their Sportsman brand. It is a 7D Searchlight, which, what an odd number of batteries, but I have a feeling Rayovac did it just so they could have a flashlight slightly bigger than Eveready's. And it's a cool flashlight. I believe it's got a glass lens on it. The lens is held in with this thick metal corrugated ring. And it's got a strap. It's got a leather, I think it's a leather strap. I did see one on eBay that had a fabric strap, but I'm pretty sure I've seen leather strapped ones too. But it's got a strap to sling it over your shoulder like it's a sword or something. And when they show up on eBay, at the time of taping this video, I think there's 1 or 2 on eBay. I found one of them and the seller wants $100 for it. Whether or not it'll sell at that price, I don't know, but gosh, would I love to have one of them, but I'm not going to pay the price for it. This is good enough. But yeah, Rayovac made a 7D Searchlight that straps over your shoulder, and it's pretty epic. But I have something even more epic now, and this ring on the tail cap comes off. This was to hang it on like a wall or something. It's too bad that there isn't another ring on this end so that I could put my own strap on this, although maybe it'd be possible to just drill a couple of holes in the head here, and then I could fabricate some sort of strap. But I won't worry about that for now. But I'm really interested to do some testing with this flashlight in this form, get those PR20 bulbs. Maybe I will grab some rechargeable D batteries just so I can satisfy my curiosity and test what it's like. And we'll do that in another video. But until then, there are 2 Eveready Captain 6D Searchlights, one from the 1970s, one from the 1980s. And to me, these are kind of peak flashlight. Long, thick, ribbed, and with a shiny, bulbous head at the end. Perfect. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys basically bought this one. And you also bought the vintage PR20 bulbs that I have coming. So thank you so much. Your support means that I can do crazy things like this and buy the parts to make it happen on eBay. And I don't really have to worry about it with my budget and stuff. It's especially important because right now, I've just recently decided that it's not that I'm not going to, but I really can't, for my own good, use my American post office box anymore. Because of the way things are going in this part of the world right now, it's actually in my best interest to not enter the United States, believe it or not. Just because of everything that's happening, there are scary stories popping up of people, you know, where I live here. Super common for people to go into the United States just to do some shopping, get some slightly cheaper gas and slightly cheaper milk and bread. And also, it's so much cheaper to have stuff on eBay, for example, delivered to an American P.O. box and then import it, because something like this will cost, you know, an American eBay seller will charge you $5 to ship it within the United States and literally $50 to ship it to Canada. It doesn't necessarily actually cost that much. It's just that a lot of American eBay sellers don't want to bother with the extra work of shipping something internationally. So they will put an exorbitant shipping price to Canada just to make it worth their while. These PR20, vintage PR20 bulbs that I have coming, I paid an extra $15 to have them shipped to my door here in Canada. The price was $15 and free shipping to the US, or an extra $15 shipping to Canada. So I paid 30 American dollars, which is 45 Canadian dollars, to get them shipped here. But yeah, I'm hearing scary stories of people just doing their routine trips to the US and getting accosted by US customs. The last time I went to the US, which was several weeks ago, I went with a friend of mine. We did it just as sort of a test to see what it was like. They treated us harsher at the US customs than they normally did. And I've been crossing into the US my entire life. I've made hundreds, if not thousands, of crossings. And I'm hearing stories of people who are getting really like harassed by US customs officers now, and some of them are being turned around and told to go back into Canada. And I've heard of a couple of cases where people were detained for no good reason. So it is no longer, in my opinion, really that safe, especially for someone like me, to enter the United States. So I'm not going to do it anymore. So I can't use my US post office box anymore, which means purchases on eBay have just doubled or tripled in price for me, which probably means I'm going to buy super few things on eBay from now on, which is too bad. All that to say, I'm super thankful for people who choose to support me via Patreon, because you more or less pay for the stuff I buy on eBay, and now I'm more thankful for that than ever, because I've got to pay for the shipping to bring stuff directly here. So I hope this video and all my videos made your dollar, or whatever you choose to pay, worth it. And for everyone else, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.